Okay, I think we're on. Yes, we are. I think I would be smooth with that by now. Holy. Welcome, folks. My name's Jill, and I'm happy to be hanging out with you tonight for folks that are here in the Zoom room and whenever you're practicing with us on the YouTube channel. Um, Wish I could see you, but we can feel that you're practicing with us as many folks sign in at later times to watch the recording. So thank you for doing that. Hmm. Today and these last few days, I've been inspired by a poem that I've shared down below in the YouTube recording and here in the Zoom room chat from my favorite poet. I think it's fair to say, Rosemerry Wahtola Trommer. And um, I'll read the poem first and then I'll read it again when um, I'll read it again at some other point in this recording. And and then I'll just share what stood out for me from it or inspired me. Hmm. It's called Before Winter Solstice, I Remember. And you may or may not know that solstice is coming up. It's this Saturday, winter solstice, the time of the shortest day and longest night before the days start to get longer again. It always feels like a very sweet and hopeful uh, recognition to me. It's like, okay, the days are getting longer again instead of like the darkness, it's getting darker, the winter. Oh. And it's like, oh, actually, now we're starting to, as of the weekend, get into longer days. So try not to cling to it, but celebrate it. Okay, so Rosemary's poem called Before Winter Solstice, I Remember. This, too, is what we are born for. This waking in the darkness, unable to see, but still able to hear the shush of wind in bare trees, bare branches. Again, to feel the charge of our heartbeat, the swell of our belly as it fills with borrowed air. I have spent my life learning to love these shapeless hours before the light finds us. These shadowsome nights when my whole being seems to stretch beyond the bed, beyond the room, beyond the home, beyond the valley, beyond even the globe. As if I rhyme with the dark all around us, the dark that holds us, the dark that surrounds this whole swirling spiral of galaxy. Sometimes I feel how that infinite darkness calls to the darkness inside me, as if to say, remember, remember where you come from, remember what you are, and the darkness inside me sings back. It's amazing. Uh, so when I read this poem, when it came to my inbox, it actually like there's two words in here, part of a phrase that really woke me up in that moment and has stayed with me uh, as a reminder and a remembering and a practice. And it's these two words, borrowed air. It the phrase would be took my breath away, but it actually just like oh, woke me up to really feeling each breath and mm, the interrelatedness of breathing and this body and nature and the preciousness of each breath. Borrowed air, borrowed breath. It's such a beautiful phrase. I also love all the references to interconnectedness and spaciousness and darkness that she brings into this poem, which I'll talk a little bit about. But it was really this borrowed air that startled me into attention. And it reminds me of the preciousness of each breath, the impermanence of each breath, and how easy it is to slip into unconsciousness around all those truths. And really, I do practice with this quite a bit, personal awareness of impermanence and not knowing, not assuming that I'm going to awaken tomorrow or make it through this day. I do practice with that quite a lot. And, this was an even more of a reminder of borrowed breath. I don't know when, if the next inhale is going to arrive, and if that's my last exhale. And for some folks, I know that can feel very scary and alarming or triggering. So I respect that. And I also, it can wake us up to the preciousness of each moment, each meeting with another being, each footstep, each precious breath, in a way that brings a lot of joy. Yeah, for me, practicing in this way brings mm, joy is not a great translation, but piti. It's this sweet, uplifted, peaceful happiness. Piti is the Pali word that's sometimes translated as joy, one of its translations. And I remember Pascal Auclair saying, yeah, talking about renunciation as giving, oh, I don't like misquoting people, giving nature back to itself, I'm pretty sure is how he said it. And this phrase borrowed air reminds me of that, of giving nature back to itself, really feeling that this body is comprised of the same elements as nature, not separate, and mm, really feeling that interconnectedness with each breath. Because lots of time I do move about in the world, as it maybe many of us do, mm, for in a state of forgetting and in a state of feeling separate, like this is just my body breathing. We don't really even think about it, but sometimes we can get that sense of just me breathing. But really, it's so interconnected with the trees, with all the elements, with each other, all interbeing, interflowing. Hmm. And of course, this is an important part of the Dharma, of the characteristics of all things. Anicca, the arising, passing nature of everything, not just this breath, absolutely everything that I tend to take as being solid and permanent and reliable and separate, including this self. And when we look closely, when we practice, when we experience and know these truths. That's hard to say. Truths without lisping. Um, when we know these directly, these are liberating insights and point to truth, our truth. So this arising and passing is one of these characteristics, and anatta, the truth of non-separateness, the truth of interbeing with all things, the truth of conditioned arising, that of infinite variables way beyond our comprehension that are conditioning this body, this mind, this heart, and this breath moment by moment. It's fascinating that sometimes when we practice, if we practice with breath meditation, sometimes people feel that it's boring, that they kind of like get bored paying attention to the breath, the mind wanders off or they slip into sleepiness or whatever different hindrances arise. And if you turn up the curiosity a little bit more or a lot more as needed, and really pay attention to each of these borrowed breaths, they're absolutely unique. There is no breath the same as any other breath because moment by moment, this being is also changing and impacted by whatever thoughts are waving through, whatever sounds are happening in the environment, whatever sensations in the body, all have an effect on the breath. And there's a story in one of these books of someone saying that, oh, there's so many good stories about breath, but finding the breath is boring. They're talking to their teacher. It's a Zen story. You'll be able to tell, and that it's not a true story. It's a teaching story. The teacher comes around behind the student or asks them to do it for themselves and close their mouth and close their nose. So they're for out however long is possible and comfortable, not breathing, and then they let go. Was that breath boring? And so we can use these kind of techniques to really pay attention to how precious that inhale was to someone who was being restricted from breathing. It's like, oh, that arising. Imagine waking up to each breath like that without having to hold our breath. There's another really interesting story about mindfulness of breathing and all of the senses come together in a conference. I wasn't planning on sharing these, so I'm just trying to pull them up. They come together for this meeting, the sight, hearing, taste, touch, smell. Thank you, whoever sent that. And the mind is also considered a sense store. So these six senses have come together and they're all squabbling um, over who's the most important, which sense is the most important and should be in charge. And of course, the mind jumps in pretty quickly. I'm definitely the most important. I can tell stories and call up memories and imagine things and create things and on it goes, the mind. And the eyes soon chime in with showing all these beautiful images and recollections and art and creativity and all these colors and beauty and dazzling things. And you can imagine how the story goes through all the senses, the sounds from the ear sense door, beautiful symphonies and nature sounds, and wonderful tastes, beautiful smells, um, sensations in the body. And so they're all start squabbling amongst themselves about who's the most important. And, the breath is at the back of the room, just like, I'm not going to jump into this squabble. And the breath slowly starts to leave the room. Of course, all the senses lose all their dazzle because without the breath, they do not exist. So this again highlights the importance of mindfulness of breathing and the preciousness of each breath. We're born into this world on an inhalation, and we leave this embodiment on an exhalation. Each breath is a birth and a death of moment by moment. So we'll practice tonight mindfulness of breathing. And before we begin that practice, I want to mention that for some folks, practicing with breath as an anchor is can create more tension and more controlling of the breath, feelings of constriction or even panic can arise. And um, there's different ways to practice with mindfulness of breathing. If it's supportive to you and comfortable for your system at this time, you can pay attention in a kind of, what's the right word? Focused area of sensation in the body and just watching arising, passing at that place. Paying attention in a closer area of sensation, as I just mentioned, for some people creates more tension. So you could feel like a very spacious sphere of awareness around the whole body. And just aware that breathing is happening in a really spacious way. Inhaling and exhaling. And that can often be a helpful way to not create more stress or tension around mindfulness of breathing. And if that still is not supportive for you, then please choose another anchor, like the sensation of your hands, wherever they're resting, and just feel the sensations of hands. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm. There's so much in this poem I could also go into around darkness and spaciousness and the what that can mean, but I just want to focus on this part tonight. But I I'll probably read the poem again at the end of the meditation. Let me just see. Do I want to read it now? Feel out there. I don't know yet. I'll read it again at some point. That's as far as I can commit. Okay, so I'm just gonna have a sip of water. You could adjust your posture to get ready for the practice. Hmm. Hmm. Ah. So as you're beginning to settle into your practice, seeing if you need any other movement or stretch or touch, any other supports for the body. And allowing several minutes here to just meet the body, meet your posture, taking time to settle. Lately, we've been practicing with and remembering the cue of resting back and down. That awareness, feel the sensation of your back body or the spine, the back of your body resting on whatever support you're on. And as we feel the connection with support and ground and earth, inviting some softening or spaciousness with any tension that's here that isn't needed. As the muscles lengthen, the bones settle down. Letting any tension in face or shoulders, belly or hands slide down and dropping off, dripping off the body. And as we move towards this time of longest night, winter solstice, we remember this too is what we are born for, this waking in darkness, unable to see, but still able to hear the shush of wind in bare branches, able to feel the charge of our heartbeat, the swell of our belly as it fills with borrowed air. If it's helpful to you, you might take a few slightly deeper breaths to feel the actual sensation of breathing in and breathing out. If you've taken a few slightly deeper breaths, see if you can rest with that sensation as the breath settles back into natural breath. Noticing where you most easily feel the sensation of breathing. Might be this belly expanding and contracting. The center of the chest as it rises and falls. Some might feel the sensation of breathing most easily at the tip of the nostrils. The air slightly cooler on the inhale and warmed by the body on its exhalation. As mentioned at the beginning, you might find it more helpful to just feel a very spacious field of awareness around the whole body and resting in the knowing, breathing in, breathing out. Meeting with the preciousness of each breath and allowing it to be known directly as nature, body breathing itself, giving nature back to itself. Each exhalation, letting go of separateness. Each inhalation, letting go of separateness. Breath receiving and giving. Letting go of the illusion of me and mine, separate from anything, separate from nature. Breath, just like the nature of passing clouds, arising and passing waves. Boredom or restlessness or distractedness is taking over. You might recall one of these ancient stories of how to wake up to precious breath, how these senses will all fade away without this breath. How strong sounds or sensations or thoughts affect the breath. Breath might shorten or deepen, or longer exhale, longer inhale, smooth or rough. We continue practicing this renunciation and non-attachment to each breath. We might see if there's also some gratitude or some subtle joy here. Rosemary's poem again until we'll continue practicing until the bell rings. Before winter solstice, I remember. This, too, is what we are born for. This waking in darkness, unable to see, but still able to hear the shush of wind in bare branches, able to feel the charge of our heartbeat, the swell of our belly as it fills with borrowed air. I've spent my life learning to love these shapeless hours before the light finds us. These shadowsome nights when my whole being seems to stretch beyond the bed, beyond the room, beyond the home, beyond the valley, beyond even the globe, as if I rhyme with the dark all around us, the dark that holds us, the dark that surrounds this whole swirling spiral of galaxy. Sometimes I feel how that infinite darkness calls to the darkness inside me, as if to say, remember, remember where you come from, remember what you are. And the darkness inside me sings back. Wishing you a sweet and restful solstice and awakening to the preciousness of each of these breaths and the wisdom in that. And might see some of you at the New Year's retreat. If not, I haven't seen the list yet who's coming, so apologies if some of you are coming and I haven't had time to connect with you about that. As I mentioned at the beginning, uh, if you're interested, it's it's can be helpful to get your name on the waiting list because it does often shift. Even in this last, well, it's more than a week. It's a week and a bit. We begin on the 29th. December 29th to January 2nd. And so Wednesday night, this Sangha will continue. January 8th, we will resume. So 2 weeks not here. I wish you all deep rest and peace and love. Thanks for being here.